Good evening once again. Welcome to today's session. This is our last session of our training, and we'll be having the topic drugs and substance abuse by our speaker, with Stephen Obiero, ASF, ASFLLC. Is an SRH advocate and also is passionate about matters to do with reproductive health. And today he'll be taking us through the sessions on drugs and substance abuse. Thank you for your patience. And because of time, I would like to welcome the speaker so that he will lead us in the wonderful session. So if Steve, you are ready, feel free to start. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Stephen Obiero. I am a LC, a local coordinator at Africa Student for Liberty, and today I wish to share on the topic of drug and substance abuse, being that is a key topic that majority often have to talk about it because most of us we are emerging generation and the emerging hurdles, we have to tackle this thing called drugs and substance abuse. As a libertarian, we say that the laws that have been placed on drugs and substance abuse, at times we need to do away with it because have you realized that things that have been left to be free without regulations, people often don't use it. So one of the things that we do as a libertarian is to encourage people that we shouldn't do matters on regards to drugs and substance abuse. Uh, we know what drug is. I believe that majority of us who are here, we know what drug is. And drug is any substance that when taken, it often it alters the normal body process, the body functioning. And I just want us to look at the pre- prevalence of drug abuse. And so currently, that's based on statistics that was conducted uh, previously within the campus structure within the universities. And they see that currently usage of alcohol and other drugs by people aged 15 to 24. Uh, Alcohol has taken a greater number, and that is 14% of those who consume it. Then we have cut, we have cigarette, we have bang, we have
Hello, we seem to have lost this. Hello, Steve, you can try to rejoin again. We can't hear you. Hello, I'm trying to reach out to the speaker, so let me give you feedback after I've talked to him, because he seemed to be have lost. Hello, the speaker is just joining now.
Hello, can you now get me? I'm sorry, I'm being informed that I was lost. Where was it? Did you get the cause? The cause why people are engaging in drugs and substance abuse?
No.
Oh, so I think I left it at bang. I think at bang. Oh, at bang. So let me just restart it again in my presentation, then we can continue. So from the lesson we can learn from the previous statistic I gave, it is that it is false to say that everyone or majority is taking the substance. And again, the lesson that we also learn is that from the statistic, abstainers should be the agents of change because they have what the users don't have. And with that, I felt to give a reason why the emerging generation are engaging in drugs and substance abuse, be it in a course, that is a campus life or a study life, be it in a company, that is a work life, be it character, behavior-wise, be it club, and any other thing in any other aspect of life. And I summarized them in 6 C's. The first C is curiosity. The urge of one wanting to test what is taking place. They don't want to be left out. And these make majority of the young people to engage in drugs and substance abuse. The next C is conformity. I want to be like Steve. And I have conformed to what is in, I have to conform to Steve's behavior so that we can become friends. And that aspect of conformity will now make me to engage. Now I engage Steve. Number 3 is coping. As a coping mechanism, youths have the myth of taking drugs in the name of they can't operate without them having the drug within them. Also, the one is confidence. They don't have confidence of believing themselves that they can do it without the drug's influence. And that brings us to the 4th C. Then the next C, I'll say to be a coping. I'll say it to be coping of kukopi. You do something because other person do. You have taken Steve to be a mentor, and now because Steve abused drugs, you want to do it. In relationship, for instance, because you are dating with Steve, now you get to do that because Steve is like your small G. We also have the other aspect of the reason why other youths get to engage in drugs. One is because they feel that it is cheap. And so the cheapness makes these people to really afford, for instance, a cigarette goes at 20 shillings. So with it being a cheap, we can also have the changa. It is very cheap. A tot goes at 20 shillings or 10 shillings. Because it is cheap, self gets now to engage in drug abuse because it's cheap and they can easily afford it. I also decided to look at in life, what are the induction hotspots of drugs? Drug induction hotspots. And number 1 is the party. Parties. Let me put it that way. You went to a party, you have engaged, you have danced, you see other friends party. The song of the day is drinking. And so you find yourself getting a toast. You have now danced, you're tired, but the water you find next to you is having the alcohol content. Boom. You have started and you have been inducted. The journey starts from there, from the party. You have found your friend just tell you, take just a puff in this party. Boom. That's how it has started. The next one becomes a club, restaurant, pub, and bars. You have, for instance, you have accompanied Steve to a tea club or tea restaurants, tea pub. You have gone there, but Steve always drinks. And so day one, you go with Steve, you enjoy, you're just happy. Day two, you're wondering, what is Steve doing? Then now you say, I'm the one now wasting my own time. And so after that, now you say, okay, I don't want to waste my time. Let me now test it. And from there, now you say, oops, I'm now testing it. Getting to be engaged in drug sports and ball, especially in mashinani areas, who cannot me and says, let me just go there for a minute. Just to ask, I'm being informed, the guy is going to boost himself. And I'm wondering how. But now, that is now how things have operated, because now they have made it part of themselves and said, I cannot play this game without taking this. We also have the aspect of there's the myth on course and career choice. For instance, others, because they do given courses, for instance, engineering, medicine course, medicine related courses, others architectural, because at times architectures even go midnight doing their projects. Engineers do that. People doing medicine have been perceived. And so this now, the myth on it now make and the individual gets to be inducted into drag. The last hotspot that I saw was based on music. And music suits. The power of music is very great. At times, it becomes a way of meditating upon things. And so others have gotten to be inducted because they are lovers of reggae, lovers of R&B. And that now becomes now the myth that now if I love reggae, I must do a puff. And people have now made it in form of Wajakoya. Now Wajakoya this, Wajakoya that. That is a myth which has been there. I also decided to do research on events and people involved in induction of emerging generation into drugs. And number one is bash parties. They talked about parties. Number two is trips. And what is about trips? We go for a trip as friends. Then now friends, because we have one who drinks, and now we are going to sleep because trips sometimes, other institution you go for a trip and accommodation you have to share, the same gender. Now one of the people is now drinking. Now we join him in drinking. Then also the last one now becomes friends. I want also to talk about the effects to the merging, and I want to put it in terms of claim, the effects of drug abuse. Number one becomes the academic problem, and that becomes 44%, because most of the emerging youths, these are people who are still studying. Majority, either if they're not in their undergrad or if they're not doing their certificate, let me just say it, if majority of the emerging generation are from 15 to 34 or 35. These are people who sometimes they pursue education. And this also will result to them dropping from school. And now that gives us 16%. They drop without informing the guardian or the parent. Then we have the health problem, very key, at 12%. Everything, we can't say that you're of good health if your mental health is also affected. So it also brings the mental problem. Another effect is it indulges self into theft and criminal offenses. Somebody cannot afford to get, once he has been involved in drug abuse or has been involved in drugs, he or she will sometimes, because he doesn't have the money or she doesn't have the money, she'll have now steal or do other crimes, hence endangering their lives. That is now the aspect of that. Then now we have it now brings the interpersonal, interpersonal violence. Yes. This interpersonal, you are not free with yourself. There is that violence within you. And so you find it, you are fighting against yourself. Another one is now the risky sexual behavior. This is a generation that is sexually active. And so once they have decided to indulge themselves into drugs, they now get to have the risky sexual behavior, and they might get to be infected in one way or the other by the HIV, STIs, or any other things, or the aspect of unwanted pregnancies. We also have the antisocial behavior. The effect now becomes, because these people now tend to run away from people. We have the misuse of finance. We have injuries. We have suicidal and death. We have unwanted pregnancy. And apparently, which saddens is this now leads to cohabiting and also drug uses, which are very dangerous to our health. I want to talk also about a given, it's very key that I talk about it, that to the secondary smoker, it also an effect. Once somebody is indulged to the secondary, the problem is now taking it to giving us domestic violence. Taking alcohol or any other drug to the family, it results to violence and child abuse. We are done the rights of the child because now the father can't afford, and this now aspect. Also, this abuse tends now to be aggressive. It leads somebody to be aggressive, have aggressive behaviors. We have the irresponsible behaviors. And what do I say? Kunywa zaidi, teleza zaidi. Irresponsible behavior, this is now the risky sexual behavior that we talked about. And now nikisema kunywa zaidi, teleza zaidi, yamaanisha you have decided to be irresponsible, and therefore the repercussion shall follow the self. In regards to, I tend to be a good scholar, and sometimes I read. Just in Saudi Arabia the other time, we realized that excessive consumption of alcohol and abuse of drugs can cause impotence. And everybody here, majority of here, seeks to sire them whom they can call, these are my offsprings, yeah, the viable offsprings. But now when you can't sire, it now becomes you have now married for other people. You are not married for yourself. If your goal is to have descendants in regards to the biblical view. Apparently, when I was talking about crimes, there's this thing that has come to me that sometimes, for instance, if a man abuses drugs, a man can now exchange the wife dress for alcohol. He can change his good things he has bought for alcohol. And he does it for exchange of one beer. With that, I also want us to look very clear about attitude. Understanding and support. Our attitude should be that we should understand these people and support them. What do I mean by addictors? This is someone who has no voice, who has been enslaved to a master and has been addicted. So some of the addicts, they have no voice and they get to be enslaved because they can't reason. The brain, the reward system of a brain can now not reward them because we have the part of amygdala. And amygdala, if we affect it, it will no longer reason. And so it will make us voiceless and not to speak. The hippocampus works closely. I think now the medics now understand that. Then now we have the cerebral cortex. With all that, it operates on the reward system of the brain. What does that bring to us? And now, this is now the aspect of how we negatively perceive these people. We perceive them to be useless. We perceive those who indulge in drugs to be silly. We take them to be silent. Then with them, they engage in self-blame, shame, and stigma. But positively, what we need to do, because we need them to change, we are now the agent of change. We need to understand them and support them by adapting the 7 S of social vaccine. What do I mean by the 7 S of social vaccine? Number 1 is shape up, where we recognize that this person has a problem. Then we stand out. We go extra mile of now solving it. Then we speak up with knowledge, attitude, and skills. If it persists us, then now we seek help. And seeking help is, you can do the referral. We also have the support system. You now be the support. Then we have the share message. For them who go to church, Isaiah 9:6-9 talk about the Savior. Eventually, when this person has changed, you now become the Savior.
there are some signs, physical signs that we need. When you see, you need now to say, you need now to be on the watch. Number one is a blood spot eye. The pupil is larger or smaller than usual. Be keen with that. And not everybody whose eye is red is taking alcohol. Not anybody whose teeth is strained is either smoking. It is just a part of physical warning. If my eyes are red, don't say I smoke. If your friend's teeth are stained, don't say they smoke. Then we have the changing of the eating and sleeping pattern. This is somebody who will sleep from 10. But now this person either sleep less or sleep more. This person either eat less. If somebody will go and take chapo tatu beans, now this person now cannot even finish chapo mbili or chapo moja. He'll be like, I'm full, niko sawa. The term they use, niko sawa. Then there can be a sudden gain or losing weight. The deterioration can appear in physical appearance and also personal grooming habits. When the grooming habits changes, it speaks something. It's upon us as the Savior, as saying Isaiah, that now we help to understand. Then other people can go without bathing, so that gives us the unusual smell and breath. We have the slurred speech or impaired coordination. Like this guy can't just make a proper communication. When he does the speech, for him to coordinate, the coordination of the speech becomes impaired. Then we also have the aspect of fatigue, unusual fatigue or tiredness, frequent hunger. This person doesn't want to have eye contact, then drop out in attendance or performance at work or school. Then we also have frequent in trouble with the law. You just find this person is ever. Then also there's the change in communication pattern. Yeah. Then spending time alone, constant desire to the person has constant desire to distance themselves from you. Then you think they have inhaled the laughing gas. They just laugh for no reason. But that also does not mean that those who laugh enough, those who laugh every time are using drugs. No, it can just be a zero. If it is unusual behavior that you add, then also they tend to lose interest. Then we now have the psychological warnings. These people have the unexplained change in personality or attitude. There's that change of consistent behavior pattern. It does this today, tomorrow it does that, this and this. Then also there's a sudden mood swing. They get to be irritable faster. They are angry outbursts and verbally abuse. Then they also lack motivation. They are paranoid, fearful, anxious. And what do I mean by anxious? They fear and anticipate for shame. Then they lack self-control. How are we supposed to then work with these people? How are we supposed to be their brother? How are we supposed to be their sisters? And this now tells us that we need to have leverage for change. And by leverage, we need to do empowerment, we need to do education, and empowerment now has getting this knowledge. Now we go and educate them. With this, we are going to now provide knowledge, attitude, skills, and aspiration, which the BBI members are agents of change among the peers. And so we also need to be our brother's keeper. If Steve is lost, then we need also to be our brother's keeper. We need not to judge them. And also, with all of us, we have the aspiration to achieve. Using the Abraham Maslow, everybody is seeking to reach a self-actualization point. But what happens? Few reaches there. And so each and every individual need the aspect of belongingness. And we need now there to be supports. We need there to be mentors. And as mentors and support, we need to be have self-efficacy and be agent of hope. Let's not be people who say that let it just happen. My friend, we want, these people just need that hope. Okay, do this and this. We need to do this with urgency, and we need to motivate these people. If it fails, then we need to have strategic executive control. We should be planfulness. It should be future-oriented. And the strategy also should be self-direction within a given time and of good fortune, which is not transactional, but transformational in the context. Above all, as a brother's keeper, we should show love. We should show love to them. And it is said the greatest thing we can do is just to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So once you love your neighbor as you love yourself, first you have to love yourself and help us fight this menace that has really triggered our youths from being productive to being unproductive, from being useful to being unuseful. Our youths, from everyone who tends to achieve their goals. Let's remove this devil breath. Because we have other drugs are also emerging. We have the Kuber, we have the Shisha, we have the Mau, we have the Tambu, we have the jet fuel, Kukumanga, Mkorogo, Mshoromo, we have the Attain, we have the Aka, we have the devil breath. So we need to now be the agent and offer self-medication with substance in regards to fighting this menace on drugs and substance abuse. And so I wish to conclude my presentation that in the society we have lived as crocs, and we have been bitter with ourselves. This is making us not to be productive, but now it is a time that we need to be better and transform the society. As the libertarian, we say that you don't need to trade on anyone. As somebody who goes to church, we say, let them not say they never had the knowledge, because they said, my people perished because of the lack of knowledge. And the Bible says, remind them, even if they know. And so our work, our duty is to remind them that this menace is there, and drug abuse is a serious and a complex issue that have negative impacts on individuals. It have negative impacts on families and also community. The abuse of drugs can lead to physical or psychological dependence, health problem, social and economic problem, and eventually even death. From what we have seen, there are many factors that contribute to drug abuse. They can be genetic, environmental, and social factors. Additionally, some individuals may be more vulnerable to drugs and substance abuse due to their ages. And as I say, the emerging adults. They can also be vulnerable based on their gender. Prevention is better than cure, and is very crucial in addressing the drugs, the drug abuse. The prevention efforts that we can now do is education, community outreach, and early intervention. However, at times there are moments where we need to have the treatment aspect. Treatment can be involve range of intervention by detoxification, behavior therapy, and medication assisted treatment. It is therefore important to recognize that recovery from drug abuse is a long-term process that requires ongoing support and care. Therefore, by addressing the underlying factors that contribute to drug abuse, individuals can overcome addiction and lead healthy and fulfilling lives. Thank you very much. I think I therefore conclude my presentation there. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, our speaker, Obiero, for that wonderful session. Anyone who has a question, kindly you can raise your hand or unmute Ruth.
Yes, I have a question for Obiero. How do you go about handling a child, a minor, who is like using marijuana or any other drug? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Steve.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ruth.
Yes, I've asked a question. Have you heard my question?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll wait for the answer.
Thank you. I can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when, especially if you suspect that a minor is engaged in drug abuse or is using marijuana, have honest and open conversation with the minor. Talk to the minor in an non-judgmental way. Try to understand why they are using, the aspect is understanding. Try to understand why they are using marijuana. Listen their perspective. Then with that, share your concern about the risk associated with the drug the person is using. This, then just be clear about your expectations and consequences if the person continues using the drugs. That's now the open aspect. That's now where we start. But you can realize that sometimes you just did, and now when that fails, now we have the process of now seeking professional help. And now you can now reach the counselor or addiction specialist who can now handle it and give guidance and support. With that, even as you now talk and you have also involved there, you can now start doing something called behavior monitoring. You keep close eye on the minor's behavior. You look for signs of continued, check their social media accounts. You also monitor their phone usage. Just do something called monitoring. Then now, what you are now doing is now offering the support. So once he has gone that, now be that support. Encourage the minor to engage in healthy activities.
Mungu kwa 1% mimi. Ndio maana nimeweka hapa class endelee. Okay.
You can continue, Barry. I'm listening.
That's how. Hello.
Yes.
So with that, you can now build the emotions. You give them the emotional support, and this will help them now grow. I think that is it.
You know, Mr. Obero, the reason why I'm asking that, it's because now we're having many minors in school and out of school engaging in marijuana. They're using marijuana a lot. Even after finishing school, they're still using marijuana. It's the norm. It's the new thing now they're using. That's why I'm asking. Because many kids that go and join Form 1, Form 2, until they finish, they just start using marijuana. I don't know the reason why. I don't know where the gap is. I fail to understand, because when I walk along where I live, I'll find students smoking marijuana.
It is a great concern, and that's why I say just have the honest conversation with them. You'll get the aspect. For me, I just did them I just term them in form of the factors might differ, the reasons might differ, but for me, I just did them in terms of C's. And now others will do it because they're cheap. Others will do it because their friend does it. Others don't have the confidence. Others want to conform with what their friends does. So what you can do, and for you to get to know the root of this, the problem is self. Try to just have that open and honest conversation with them. Then you now get the aspect. You don't judge them. The problem now becomes they fear that they'll be judged. You need to do it non-judgmentally, and they feel that you become empathetic. You don't become sympathetic. You just enter in their shoes, but you don't tell them what they have to know, not what they wish to know, what they wish to hear. Yeah, give them the fact. If the consequence is this, it is this. So with that, you now build that. Okay, so we have Auntie Ruth here. Auntie Ruth and care about us. Okay, Auntie Ruth anataka tufanye hii and hii. So with that, you will now build the reason why they engage in marijuana usage, and also with that, you now become an agent of change, and you now have helped a majority to have this menace solved. It was a good concern. Thank you very much, Ms.
Mr. Obero, what do you think the schools should do? The administration, what should they do about that? Because they already know what is happening. The kids might not be using at home, but in school they're using because of close monitoring. So maybe in school they're using. What do you think the administration school should do more to feel?
Okay, I can just give it. That's why I said that as agent of change, we need to have the strategic executive control. So this strategic executive control will basically help for us to the monitoring, and also, but matters of behavior sometimes become very key, and in capacity for change is not just a one-day thing. And from my hand is that they should now strengthen the guidance and counseling, because what now these children had is probably okay, Mr. Dual.
Okay. I want to thank you for the opportunity. On the question that one of us have just asked, I would just like to may add my thought or opinion. Actually, you have just said it when you are starting about the Cs you talk about. Probably if they are minor and they are students too, according to me, I think it is more of just perception that if you take marijuana or this drug, you may be good on certain subject, you may have some good memory. It's just something, a perception of something of kind. So you get that when this minor start doing this or start taking one drug, and we know very well that when you start doing one drug, it may lead to taking the other drugs. Probability are there. You may start with marijuana, you will go to another one, and also will end up like maybe taking many of them. So according to me, I think it's just about perception that this student have or this minor have about this thing. And you really explained well that if we can talk with them and understand their motive behind it, why they're doing it, maybe because of some subject, thinking that if take it, they will retain much in, if they used to say, if you take it, you may retain much on your head more than what. So it's just a belief. And now many are getting into it without knowing it is wrong. It is just a mere belief. So that's according to me and what I think, because it's not right. Maybe marijuana can be used on other things, yes, but it's a student, the perception they're using it may be not be right one. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Dual. And just to add, I also think that okay, the key thing becomes education and awareness. So we should let the school. That's why I say let's strengthen the guidance and counseling. Yes, and with that, now they'll give the accurate information about the harmful effects of the harmful. Then also there's this thing that I try to adapt in every school that I go. It is the aspect of the peer counseling. Once you have a peer counselor, it becomes very easy for monitoring, because this peer is often with these students. So they can easily identify these students, and this peer counseling aspect now will help you now focus the problem. Now you focus on building the student self-esteem and resilience. So that is always very key, because now when you leave it now for peers, yes, and now you build as a teacher, now you become now the parent, yeah. So with that, once the peers identified, you don't do it judgmentally, you just call the student, and now you have the conversation. With the you as a teacher, now you have you don't, once you have realized this, now you don't go to the staff room and start saying, oh mwalimu, this child ni msumbufu anasumbufu. You have known the reason why the student does it, and now, as Mr. Samuel had said, they do it on perception of the myths they get about the usage of marijuana. So now with that, you can now provide them with the facts and accurate information on marijuana. Then now
we are trying. Soon we can also have other programs that can help. But let us not be something like the aspect of enforcing harsh rules. This now will make others to say, because there are some people who have just come for a certificate. If you are now reinforced rule, now you want to discipline them by suspending them or expelling them. There are people who are just there for certificate. Also, when doing this as a teacher or within the school system, we should also involve the parental involvement, because there's a reason why we don't say, but it's also very key that you realize that currently the generation we are, the parenting has gone to 30%. Like you realize a child is born, it becomes to the mom, the child remains to the nanny. The parent cannot even say what my son is doing. Yes. And that's where you realize most parents will say, my son does this in school. No, this son has been doing this even at home, but because the parent anaamka asubuhi ako job saa 10, ataki jame mshike ako saa 10, anakuja saa 4 usiku. So you realize that now we need now to have now also the parent involvement and having now a regular. So it becomes parent doing the monitoring, teachers doing the monitoring, and also now it now becomes the initiative of a community. I think that can assist, but in case anybody has other thing, they can also add. Thank you.
Thank you, Odul and Obira, for answering these questions. I appreciate that. Any other question? I can see in the chat box that Samuel is saying that was a great presentation. Ruth, share the notes, please. Great presentation, Ayub. Coroso, thanks for the presentation. Share the slides. Lenza is saying it's a nice presentation. Ruth is saying, can I give you a school name that you can visit, Mr. Obiero? That is from Ruth.
Yes, you can do. You can do, Miss.
Any other question? Maybe we can give a thumbs up to our speaker as a show of appreciation for the presentation. Another thumbs up. Go to reactions and then choose the thumbs up emoji. Thank you, Odul. I'm still waiting for your thumbs up. Go to the reactions and then choose the thumbs up emoji. Thank you. Thank you so much. So as our speaker has said that it all starts in the family. So the parents still have a role in parenting, same to the neighbors, until we reach the community, we have to start from where we are. We go to teachers, we go to the community, and maybe I think if you have your peer friends who are still into drugs, maybe you can also ask them why they are taking these drugs, and don't confront, but ask in a way that they will give you the information that you require so that you can be open to them. So thank you so much, our speaker today. I really appreciate, and I can see in the chat box a lot of thumbs up. Thank you so much, Obiero. Maybe you can have a 1 minute final statement and then we end the session.
So I want to just appreciate each and everyone. And what I can say that addressing drug abuse requires multifaceted approach, which involves education, prevention, counseling. We can also have the enforcement and community involvement. It is a call that we should work together and help to prevent drug abuse. We need to create safe and healthy environment for our students and for each and every one of us within the society. We don't need to trade on anyone, and so we need to create a safe space for each and every individual of us. Thank you very much, and I'll really appreciate it. Have a blessed night. May the good Lord guide you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and also have a good evening.